Delegates of the AACB conference, can I have your attention, please? I absolutely love the chatter because that just shows how collaborative we all are, so that's fantastic. I didn't even want to stop you, but welcome to the 27th AACB Annual Conference. How good was the Powerhouse last night? What an amazing venue. I'm just so grateful that they didn't try to drag me up on stage and hang me from the ceiling, but I wouldn't put it past the Brisbane marketing team by what I've put them through. But no, it was a fantastic evening and a perfect way to start the conference. Look, one of the exciting parts of my job that I probably won't talk about a little bit later in my update, but is working with your CEOs. That's probably one of the biggest highlights. And yesterday we did go through a rather intensive board session and an AGM. And out of that, I'd just like to officially announce our new executive team, which Lynn Lewis-Smith is our president, who is in the middle of her second term. We've got Karen Bollinger as our new vice president. Congratulations. Stuart Nettlefold as our treasurer. And Damien Kiddo is still our immediate past president, so thank you very much for your long-term support, Damien. Now, I'm not going to hold you up too much longer. On that note, I will actually invite our president up to give you an overview of where AACB is at and the future for our organisation. Thank you very much.
Ooh, this is a really bouncy. Thanks, Andrew. How are we all? Good, good. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to AACB, welcome to Brisbane, and a warm welcome to all our international guests who they introduced themselves last night at the welcome function. Thank you for taking the time to travel to Australia and attend the conference with us. I'd like to start by thanking Rob, and I'll introduce Rob shortly, but Rob, Andrew, and the conference committee and Brisbane marketing and all those involved that have put the conference on over the have put the program together for the next few days. I think we're in for a real treat. And as Andrew mentioned, you know, the chatter around the room, I think we're going to take a lot of learning away from the next few days. The theme is fitting, collaboration better together, and it's fitting because we're essentially all competitors that come together once a year to discuss issues and trends and share ideas. And that's all towards progressing our industry, which is really, really important. And that's what the AACB board do as well. So the board's made up of CEOs, and we meet throughout the course of the year. And our role is to continue to profile or raise the profile of the business events sector and importantly influence the federal political agenda about what we do as Bureau and why it matters. And I'm going to come to that shortly. But I want to take a few minutes just to reflect on the past year activity at AACB. And to do that, I need to start with the 2014 Deloitte report that focused on the economic and strategic value proposition of hosting international business events in Australia. Now, that report was actually the catalyst for the policy framework that was established by Government and Business Events Australia with industry. And it was launched by the past Federal Minister, Minister Rob, in November 2014. And this is a major achievement because it's the first policy that the sector has ever got up with government. And for those of you who may not be aware, there are three pillars to that policy. The first is attracting more international business events to Australia, and that's Bureau and industry working with Business Events Australia and the federal government. The second pillar was to attract more delegates, and I think you're going to hear from Monica tomorrow about all the great work that they're doing with Bureau in the marketing space and taking real risks, I believe, in terms of the innovation about how we differentiate ourselves to market to delegates to get more to these conferences that are already confirmed for Australia. And the third pillar was about leveraging or maximising the productivity from the events that we do host here. We host around 300 international business events every year, but we don't do a lot with them while they're here, and I'll talk a little bit about that shortly. That policy's great, but we have a lot more to do. I think the first two pillars are working well. The third one, we don't have engagement at this point with the federal government, so we will continue to work on that. And it's really important that we continue to work with government because we need to grow the business, and to do that you need to be competitive and you need federal government on your side when you're bidding internationally, whether that's for an international convention or an incentive program. And that's what we're doing. So leading up to the election, the AACB with an external consultant put together a pre-budget submission, and we asked for 5 key things. And Andrew might touch on this later in his presentation. We asked for a bid fund for us to be competitive against everyone else around the world that has a federal bid fund. We need one too, and I won't go into the details of that. We called for a bursary fund, and why that's important is because we want to start bidding with legacy in mind, and we want to be able to leave a legacy in Australia and internationally when we host these international events. And Australia has a real role in the Indo-Pacific in terms of how we contribute to the economic development of those developing countries that are on our borders. And that bursary fund comes out of DFAT, and they use that to improve the lives of those in the Pacific region. And I think we can do a lot of that through the bidding stage and outcomes from hosting international events. Thirdly important is the visas. Now, the visa processing is not too bad for us, but the cost when you're competing for an international incentive for a corporation can add up to millions of dollars, and that makes us uncompetitive when you're competing against the US and the UK, Europe. So we need to work a bit harder on how we offset some of those costs so we can get those big incentive movements out of Asia. Continuation of the EMDG, which is a grant to support our international marketing efforts, was the 4th one. And the 5th was about repositioning Australia as a smart place to hold a business event. And the research that Monica's going to present tomorrow, one of the things that came out of that was that international clients didn't believe that Australia attracted world-class business leaders. And we need to shift that perception. We know that not to be true, but the world thinks that. So we need to change that perception. And with the great marketing efforts and collaboration with Business Events Australia, we're hoping to do that in the future. Excuse me. So we took all of that and we worked with Becca. We took the lead on a policy position, taking those 5 key policy asks, and we went to Canberra with one voice. And I think that was really important, and that was the first time that a policy paper had got up for our sector. So a really good move on behalf of AACB. During all of this, Andrew moved from Victoria to Canberra, and that's also important because we're the first business event and only business event representation in Canberra now. So that's important because a tourism policy wasn't announced before the election, so we need to keep the pressure on over the coming term to make sure our priorities are introduced. Since the election, we've met with Minister Chobo, who is our new Federal Minister for Trade, Tourism and Investment. He's actually in London with Tourism Australia, has asked a few of the bureaus to come together with some international clients to meet with Minister Chobo in London. I believe that's been incredibly fruitful and successful for us, and it just goes to show he is very much committed to the future growth of the sector, and he made that commitment to us when we met with him earlier. Now, he can't be here for the next couple of days, but we have the Assistant Minister for Trade, Tourism and Investment, Keith Pitt. Now, he's going to address the audience this afternoon, and I think that's really telling because I don't think we've had a minister ever address our conference before. So, you know, the engagement's there, but we have more to do. Which leads me to the size of the industry and why what we do really matters for the Australian economy. If you think about tourism and the business events industry, we are the immediate and long-term future of the Australian economy and the only sector that is growing significantly. You look at the shift from resources to the service economy and where Australia needs to head to, we are at the forefront of it. And I think that's a really fitting place to be. Many of you know these numbers, but I just want to reiterate just to give you a sense of the size of our sector. So our sector delivers $28 billion every year to the Australian economy, and we generate 180,000 jobs. Now, just to put that into comparison, the cruise industry is 1.7 billion. We're 28. But they have all the noise and they get the front pages and those big cruise ships come in. So you can see that we've got more to do, and quite rightly so. The mining industry generates 220,000 jobs and is declining, and we're 180 and increasing. So that's just a good comparison to make. The International Congress and Convention Association 10-year statistics show that there's been a 44% increase, or 44% growth, over the past decade. So we've gone from 8,000 to 12,000 annual meetings. And while some of this can be attributed to the great data collection, there is no doubt it's how good we are at feeding into that data as to where the growth comes from. It does certainly show that there is a strong growth trend in the sector. Australia, on the other hand, our growth has been marginal. So we've gone from 197 to 247 meetings over the last decade, and we're below the world growth rate at 25%. So 10 years ago, we were at 2.3% market share, and 2015 we're at 2.1%. So marginal growth on a world scale, but our market share is declining, and I reiterate that's why we need federal government at the table and our governments to support what we do. We also know the incentive market. I mean, most of you in the room will touch one of those incentive movements coming out of Asia predominantly is where the growth is. The Ernst & Young report quantified that at 1.7 billion. So our incentive market is the same worth as the cruise industry. And, you know, you've seen these huge incentive movements coming through. There's enough for all of us, and it is growing. We just don't need China to sneeze. And we need to keep our eye on Southeast Asia and the other parts of the region as well. So we're the highest yielding sector. So that's another key important message that we need to take to the market. But I think, you know, measuring on the 28 billion is a very narrow view. And for many of you, you'll know that we have advocated for a long time about the beyond tourism benefits. And I won't go into a lot of detail, but, you know, they generate inward investment, trade opportunities. When cities are competing for capital throughput and global talent and new ideas for innovation to drive prosperity, everybody wants that capital and global talent, and international business events brings that to our shores. So how do we make sure we leverage that when it is here? But importantly, the business event supports the development of global research and business collaboration, and this is the point of collaboration. And many of you would, or my team certainly hears me say this all the time, you know, the networking that happens at these events or international business events does lead to collaboration, global collaboration, local collaboration. That leads to innovation. So what you might take away today are new techniques, new tools, new technology, learnings back into your workforce, and that creates efficiencies, and that is innovation. Innovation is also the production of new goods and services, and that drives consumer behaviour and obviously exports, and all that leads to economic prosperity. So you can get the picture of what I'm saying here in terms of the importance of who we are and what we do as Convention Bureau. So I'm going to end where I started. It's all up to us and our respective bureaus to work towards stronger collaboration in order to raise the industry profile. The more people know about us and the great work that we do and what we deliver, the more support we will get. Importantly, we need to remain competitive, we need to grow the industry, and we need to lead a sustainable industry. And as I said, that's our collective responsibility. So collaborate away over the next 3 days, network, share ideas, and really importantly, be proud of our industry and talk it up. Whether you're in the sector or at a barbecue, really talk our sector up. We should be proud of what we do and what we contribute to the Australian economy. So enjoy the next few days. I'm going to now introduce Rob and thank him and the committee and Brisbane for hosting us over the next few days. I think we are going to have a best ever. Enjoy.
Best ever before it started. Not bad. Knock yourself out, one, Antonio. Welcome. Hope you enjoyed last night at the Powerhouse. It's a pretty good spot, pretty cool spot. It was a nice night, and I think in my opening speech last night I was said we can all bang on about statistics about our host cities and how much we love our destinations, and I wasn't going to mention statistics, but when you wake up on another sunny Brisbane morning and one of 300 per year, it's not a bad place to be. Not bad from next South Australian, Damien. So my job was obviously not just to, be the host destination along with my staff, but obviously chairing the program committee as well. And pretty big shoes to fill with my esteemed CEO, John Aitken, chairing, the previous program committee. And when you look at, the evolution of what we tried to achieve from the board down is really look at what topics are going to be relevant to you, to our industry. And I'd like to just acknowledge again, that Lynn mentioned the program committee, but just by name, Andrew, thank you for your support. Sam from the Gold Coast, Sarah, Angie and Virginia from Sydney, Tiffany from the Sunshine Coast, Gemma from Townsville, Giselle from Canberra, and of course our own Juliet. So just a quick round of applause for our program committee. Thank you. I thought I'd give you a quick snapshot. You've got your little cheat cards in your wallets, but we're about to hear from Ian Schuback, who I'm sure will entertain us. He's got an amazing background. We wanted to inject some excitement and some enthusiasm from the outset, and Ian's got an amazing story to tell from his background. I won't give you too much away. We'll then go into collaboration from within our industry, and we've been fortunate enough to have, three industry leaders who are all based up here in Queensland, being Bob East, who's the CEO of the Mantra Group, of course, Chair of Tourism Events Queensland, TTF Board, Tourism Australia Board. So fantastic to get Bob along. Harvey Lister, the CEO of AEG Ogden, who's known to many of you, having management rights at a number of convention centres for which we deal with, and Jeff Hogg, who's the Managing Director of Queensland for Star Entertainment, and he's got a massive project up here with Jupiter's Casino down the road at the Gold Coast, or South Brisbane Beach, depends what you want to call it. And I can't help myself. And of course the $3 billion Queen's Wharf development, just $3 billion development just down the road here, which is going to transform our city. And we've subbed in our esteemed Deputy President or Vice President Karen Bollinger to facilitate that session. We thought it was a bit too close to home, being too many Queenslanders up on the table. I guess I'm a Queenslander now, so Karen is going to drill these guys, and it's going to be fantastic to listen what comes out of that session. Karen, it's all about business events, right? So hope you've got your questions ready, everyone. We'll then hear back from Andrew. We'll roll into lunch, and then we've got our Innovation X presentations. I think we've got 3 this year. Our own Vibor Pandy, who returned from Norway this year. He won the AACB scholarship, so we're interested to hear what Vib has to say, along with Emma Perez, our DMAI winner from last year. We're fortunate enough as well in Brisbane, as part of the Economic Development Board, we sit alongside our Chief Digital Officer, Kat Matson. And Kat's quite an extraordinary lady, and she's coming in to have a couch session, if you like, around people, tools and processes in collaboration. And she's doing a couch session with Rob Hudson, who is a terrific fella. He's the Managing Director of Clemenger BBDO, and that'll be an interesting discussion. And Kat will also then lead into collaboration for innovation after afternoon tea. And we've tried to really tie in some of the innovation work we're doing up here in Queensland. We're just opening up our new startup hub called The Capital, and a big focus, of course, like many cities, around startups, and Kat is front and centre in that space. And we're bringing in a couple of leaders, Jock Fairweather, who's the Director of Little Tokyo 2, Ben Hamley, and also Adrian Osman. But again, I won't give too much away. We'll allow Kat to get into that shortly. We hear from Keith Pitt, as Lynn mentioned. And of course, tonight we've got the IMEX World Cafe sessions down in James Street, and we've got some really cool venues for you, which Laurel and team have put together. 5 sessions: digital, membership, regional, connecting with Asia, and the CEOs will be catching up with Keith Pitt, which is again a fantastic opportunity to be able to have some one-on-one time with Keith. Tomorrow, just keeps going. So we've got Paul Lloyd from Think One Team International. Think One Team is a leadership group which has been operating for a number of years now. It was founded by Graham Winter, who was 3 times Australian sports psychologist for the Olympic team, morphing into business coaching, business development, and consulted worldwide, and has now got proprietary to his particular program. His partner, Paul Lloyd, supported by Gail, will take us through our professional development program with a real focus on collaborative problem solving. And having worked with Paul in the past, I'm sure you'll find it really interesting and most beneficial from your perspective within your own teams, but also us as an industry. We'll then go into a session facilitated by Anthony, who I'll introduce in a moment, with collaboration in other industries. So we tried to look outside of the square as to what are some really diverse, interesting people that we know, that we're connected with, that can share their stories. So we've got Professor Michael McGuckin from the Mater Research Foundation, Celestine Doyle from the Powerhouse, who were there last night, and the wonderful Professor Suzanne Miller, who's the CEO and Managing Director of the Queensland Museum Network. We deal closely with Suzanne up here on the World Science Festival. She'll be no stranger to our Adelaide colleagues, having previously been down there as well. A fantastic and really leading light in the museum network, but also across the whole landscape of museum network internationally. We've then got Hamish Arthur coming in to talk about the federal election overview, and Lynn referred to just how important it is for us to understand federal politics and what shapes it and the influence that we can have in understanding and how the role the business events play in the visitation economy and beyond. Then we've got the lovely Monica Amesto talking to us about all that wonderful research. I love that wink, Monica, every time it gets me. I don't know if I'm in trouble or it's a little sneaky wink, but wait and see. But Mon and the team at BA have done an amazing job in on researching delegate behaviour. We've had a sneak preview, a few of us in Sydney a little while ago, so you'll enjoy that and be able to take plenty of information back home. And still goes on. I think we finish off with Holly Ransom, which many of you would have heard. She's the CEO of Emergent. Probably needs no introduction, really. An amazing, impressive young lady. If I'm allowed to say young lady, I guess I'm old enough to say when someone's 26 or 27, she's young. And really impressive, and actually now director of my former workplace, the Port Adelaide Footy Club. I don't know how she got into that one, but must have been Koshy. So she's fantastic, and I've had a good chat on the phone about what we do, and she's no stranger to Brisbane as well. She came up for the G20 as part of our Global Cafe, so she'll be fantastic to finish off the sessions, and of course the gala dinner tomorrow night. So pretty action-packed agenda. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you get plenty out of it. And when we're searching for a facilitator, we're thinking, okay, who do we get this year? And we can't with Anthony Frangi. Anthony is no stranger to people up here in Brisbane. He's got an amazing background in commercial radio. He's a media and communication strategist, and most recently is a founder of Pop-Up Radio, which is a radio product designed for the conference and events market. So without any further ado, I'd now like to introduce you to our facilitator for the next 2 days, Anthony Frangi. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you, and good morning and welcome. Now, just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started, and thank you to the organisers for putting this together. First of all, the bathrooms are outside, to your left, and then down the corridor right to the end there. So the bathrooms on this level, of course, there are bathrooms downstairs as well. In the event of an evacuation, if we need to leave, the staff from the Emporium will guide us and direct us, and I'm sure that won't be the case, but it's important to raise that as well. Mobile phone etiquette. Please, I know how busy we all are, but if you could just set your phones, if you haven't already, to silent, that would be terrific. Welcome first-timers, and I understand that there are about 50% of people in the room who haven't been here before, and they're indicated by the little pink sticker on their lanyard. So who are first-timers? Put your hand up. So let's give them a big welcome, special warm welcome for being here today, which is terrific. So terrific. Now, the organisers have also asked me just to inform you, and I'll be doing this a few times throughout the course of the day, is that behind this big screen is a session where we're going to ask you to be photographed. I can't tell you why, but during the breaks, morning tea, lunch and afternoon tea, if you can just pop in there and get your photograph taken, we'd greatly appreciate it. And if you don't do it by lunchtime, I will come and get you. So keep that in mind as well. We are filming this session today and tomorrow, so if you do have a question to ask or a comment at the end of any session, there will be some microphones around, and we ask you to speak into that microphone as well. And in terms of social media, and it's all about social media today, the hashtag, and make sure you write this down because we want your feedback, your comments, all sorts of things. It's hashtag AACB Inc., AACB INC. So if you can jot that down, and those back at work will be able to watch and be incredibly jealous of all the great things that are happening up here over the 2 days. So that's a little bit of housekeeping out the way. And look, welcome to Brisbane too, and it is such an exciting time. I was born in this city, and I'm so proud to be working in the city again. I did spend some time in Tasmania and also in Melbourne and the wild west of Perth, but it was always good to come home, and I just love working here and promoting our city. And at the moment, of course, we've got the Brisbane Festival that's underway and the Brisbane Writers' Festival. I don't know how many of you will get an opportunity to sort of delve into that, but these are great iconic events for our city, and it really brings our city alive. And only a couple of weeks ago, did you see it on TV, that we had Hollywood here in Brisbane with Thor, with Chris, and Tom and Sir Anthony Hopkins, and they really transformed our city into a New York skyline. And it was interesting watching it on TV because there were thousands of people who gathered in the streets just to catch a glimpse of Chris and Tom and to kind of bring this Hollywood to life. And there were people who from interstate wanted to kind of follow these stars and be here, and it was good to hear their stories as well. But I'm not a fan of the Thor franchise, but I did like the Avengers. And I didn't mind sort of Captain America and the Hulk and, of course, Thor and the Black Widow. And it just reminds me about all the stories of those individuals and their talents to achieve a common goal, and that was, of course, to save the world. And when you think about teamwork, it provides victory, I guess, in the world of fiction, in the case of the Avengers, and I guess we can do the same in business. And what makes people really interesting, I believe, in the workplace is that we're all very different. And I think we need to be reminded about that, about personalities and weaknesses and perspectives and ideas. And this word collaboration, it's been bandied around a lot these days, and it's really big in business at the moment. And today we kind of all need to be collaboration superstars. And the trouble is that for a lot of us, it's a skill set, and it needs to be taught. For some, it comes to us quite naturally. And I think it's fair to say too that most of us stand up and we're presenting in front of a whiteboard and we're talking, but is that collaboration? And how much of that has changed in the workplace today? And people thrive, we say, in the environment that frees them to collaborate. I think the days of sitting in a corner and working in isolation are well and truly over, and that seems to be the trend mostly around the world. So this year's conference, as we heard, is about collaboration. It's about better together. And so over the next 2 days, we really want you to open your mind and think about what the possibilities are and what you can take away and the things that you can pretty much share with those in your workplace. As Lynn mentioned, we work in a highly competitive field, and we're not only competing nationally but internationally, yet every day we're surrounded by people and companies that are so competitive themselves, and yet they collaborate and that they reap the rewards. And we'll be meeting them, as Rob has outlined, both today and tomorrow. And I think what's really exciting is that helping people to collaborate is a really wonderful thing, especially us as leaders, because that is our job. And collaboration, they say, comes in all different types and shapes, and what are they and how does it work and how can we pick from it and how can we make it work for us? And we'll talk about that today. And just a couple of other questions just quickly is, what are the fundamental challenges within our own department? And how can you bring your team on this journey we call collaboration to great success as well? And how do you measure it too? It's a really interesting point. So they're the things that we hope to touch on over the course of the next couple of days. And ultimately, let's have some fun. Let's enjoy ourselves. We're out of the office and a chance to kind of enjoy and speak and network and enjoy each other's company. Let's enjoy our keynote presentation from Ian Schubach. He's the director of Peak Teams. And Ian is the founder and director of Peak Teams. It's a leadership development firm, and he uses his experience as an African safari guide, a presenter and conference facilitator to more effective leaders and teams. Ian has built leadership capacity in organisations since 1996 and has designed and facilitated leadership events in Australasia, in Europe, and South Africa and the United States. We're going to hear so much more about this. I saw some of the slides and I heard some interesting sound effects. I don't know what they are, but I'm very excited about it. So I think let's get off on a really good start, a motivating start, and welcome from Peak Teams. Will you please welcome our keynote presenter, Ian Schubach.